As someone who's been playing video games for several decades now, you come to a point where you're like, okay, I've seen all there is to see in video games. I've experienced all the new sort of experiences. Now, what can these games do to sort of expand upon that and make these games better? But sometimes a game comes along that just completely melts your mind and you're like, okay, I've never experienced anything like this. I was completely wrong. And Infernium is one of those games. Infernium recently released on the Nintendo Switch and Steam. And it's a game like nothing I've ever played before. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm gonna try my best because this is honestly one of the most unique experiences I've ever had in a game. The blending of genres, the ability to do different things within this game, it's just very different. It's very unique and very strange. But does that make it a good game? I guess that's what we're gonna find out in this review. So today on the channel, we're gonna talk about Infernium for the Nintendo Switch and also available on Steam. So sit back, relax, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and let's get into the world of Infernium and take a trip to hell.
Hey, RGT 85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards! So the story of Infernium is pretty interesting. It's a game where it doesn't tell you what's going on in the world and what you're doing. You pretty much have to find it out yourself. And the way you do that is by things written on walls. So from what I've gathered in this game, basically you're in hell. Yes, you're in hell. And you're basically trying to find a way out of hell. You're trying to figure out why you're there, what you did, what exactly happened, and why you are in hell and trying to escape hell. And it's very interesting the way it's done with these different sorts of text that's on the wall, because that's the only semblance of story in the game. When you start out the game, you're literally thrust onto this little island, and that's it. It doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't tell you what is going on, why you're there, who you are, or anything of that sort. So it's a game where you have to sort of seek out the story, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It really leads to more sort of intrigue within the world, especially considering how big this world is, but we'll get into that in a second. Initially, you learn that you have two abilities. You have the ability to sort of harness orbs into your hand, light orbs into your hand, and you could teleport across different areas to access different areas. So that's sort of the puzzle mechanic of the game, especially the teleporting part, because you could teleport to different sorts of parts of the levels and sort of figure out where you're going and actually traverse into areas that maybe you thought you weren't supposed to be able to go to initially, but because of this ability and just through trial and error, you're able to traverse to these different areas. Now, the whole point of collecting orbs is to basically power up your hand, and when you power up your hand, you can unlock different doors and access different areas, because the game is very non-linear. Like I said, the game doesn't hold your hand. If anything, the game just sort of chops off your hand and is like, hey, figure it out for yourself. And some people will like that, some people might not. And at first it was a bit frustrating to me, but as I started to learn the game's mechanics and sort of how it worked and what you need to do in order to advance through the game, or at least think you're advancing through the game, it does definitely work. Now, of course, there are enemies within this game, and the enemies in this game are these shrouded entities that are basically trying to thwart you in your progress of going through these levels. There are different color ones, there's red ones and blue ones, and basically what they do is when they spot you, they follow you. So you have to lose the trail either by, getting away and going through these little maze-like catacombs and trying to avoid them, or by closing doors behind you, etc., etc. And that's sort of the horror aspect of the game, because this game is described as like Pac-Man meets horror, and I could sort of see it that way, but I would actually say it's more of like Myst meets Pac-Man meets horror, because these set pieces are really intriguing, and there's a lot of puzzles within these set pieces. There's, like I said, there's not a lot of hand holding in this game. If anything, there's hand chopping off, so you don't really have any sort of guidance. You're just like, okay, can I go there? And then if you can go there, then you just sort of explore this different area. So the whole Pac-Man aspect comes from collecting the little light orbs and avoiding these things. Now, Blinky and Pinky have never been this mean and vicious as these other creatures are, but I digress. So that's pretty much the whole crux of the gameplay. You do meet different enemies as you advance throughout the game, but the gist of it is you have to avoid these enemies. You can eventually pick up something that will allow you to combat certain enemies, but there is no combat in the rest of the game. It's a very simplistic game. It's just sort of exploration, finding your way, solving minimal puzzles, and trying not to get absolutely lost, because you will get lost in this game. There have been times where I've been playing the game and it's like, am I supposed to go here? Like, what is going on? And what I've learned is that there's 17 interconnected levels within this game, and pretty much if you could figure out a way to get to one of these levels, you can go there. So I was actually playing the game and I kept trying to go this one direction. I would go a little bit further and then I would die. We'll talk about dying in a second, by the way. But I would die, and then I would get a little bit further, and I would die. And when you die, you basically leave this little orb that harvested all of your light pieces that you originally had. So you're not starting out completely barren. And I would get a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. And then one time I just decided, you know what, we're going to go this way. And we're just going to go a completely different way. And so I did. And in doing that, I was able to access a different area. And now I'm in a whole different segment of the game. I'm in a whole different level. I'm doing something completely different. And I'm like, am I supposed to be here? Is this the right way? Is there a right way? And that's one thing I never really figured out with Infernium. Is there a right way? Is there a wrong way? Which is the way I'm supposed to go? What's the streamlined way? Is there a streamlined way? Is there an end piece to this game? I'll be honest with you guys, I have not finished the game. I've heard that the game is about 14 hours long if you know what you're doing, but I don't understand how people would necessarily know what they're doing, because like I said, it is not a streamlined experience. I've been playing for about 15, 16 hours, and I really feel like I haven't accomplished much. And the game can be pretty frustrating at the same time because of these, you know, ghoul entities that are chasing you. Sometimes they're chasing you during an important puzzle, and you're trying to solve this puzzle, and of course now there's this entity, so you're running away, and it could get very frustrating. You will die a lot in this game. And, you know, for me, it was like I'd get mad and I would turn the system off, but something would draw me back towards the game. I'd be like, well, let me try one more time, and then I would die. And when you die, you go into this little purgatory area, and there's all these different light orbs there that pretty much are an indicator of how many lives you have left. To come to find out, you have 25 lives initially, and once you exasperate those 25 lives, then you go into another section of the game. So you go into this purgatory area, as long as you still have the 25 lives, you're good to go. You can go right back to the latest checkpoint that you found. But if you don't, then you have to do some tasks and stuff, and I don't know, it's just such a weird game. There's so much going on and so little direction that I can see a lot of people getting frustrated with this. It's definitely a creepy experience. When these ghoul entities are chasing you, it's definitely creepy because you're having to get away. You don't have a way to combat them. But I like that about the game, and I like the open atmosphere environment, because at first I was just very confused, but if anything, I just become more and more intrigued. I become more and more intrigued to find shortcuts and whatnot. You can find different shortcuts. You basically use your orbs to unlock different doors and things, and by collecting more orbs, you can unlock different doors that either lead to shortcuts or completely different paths whatsoever. The game is very open. I could see many playthroughs of this game being done and just going in different directions and experiencing different levels that maybe you didn't experience on the first playthrough. So it's very interesting in that regard. The graphics in the game are pretty decent as well. This is an Unreal Engine game developed by one person, so I have to say, you know, they did a pretty solid job of it. A lot of the environments look really nice, and you know, the frame rate is pretty smooth and all of that, so that's a good thing. The audio in the game is really well done. It's very minimalistic in terms of like sounds and stuff like that, but you're in hell. You're not supposed to have all these sounds. This isn't hellfire and brimstone, my god, here comes Cain. This is sort of a different version of hell, and the music when it happens is very good. The sound effects are very good, and of course the music when the little ghoul creature is chasing after you is very well done as well. The control in the game is good as well. Basically, like I said, you only use two main things in the game, which is your R trigger and your ZR trigger, to basically either teleport across areas or suck in these orbs. Now you can, like I said, get an attack in one part of the game that will help you out, but it's just a matter of finding this attack. That's the whole thing about Infernium. Infernium does not hold your hand. Infernium does not say, this is where you need to go, this is the end of the level, and this is how you need to complete the level. Every time I play the game, I find something different. I find a different path. I find either a shortcut or maybe just a path completely different in this different area. And I like that about the game. I like the openness with the game. I like having to read these little things that are written on walls and written on floors to sort of flesh out the story, because it's a very interesting game. I've honestly never really played anything quite like it. It's definitely sort of maybe a bit like Slender in some sort of way, but then you have the whole Pac-Man elements, you have the whole light collecting elements, you have the fact that it's just this big open world ready for you to explore, and it's like you could explore it any way you want to, but you might get a little bit over your head, and if you do, do, you're dead. And if you die too much, then you're in purgatory. And it's just, there's so many things going on with this game. But every time I play the game, I get a little bit further. I get a little frustrated. I get a little angry. I turn off my Nintendo Switch. But it's like, you know, I want to experience more of this game. So I guess at the end of the day, I like Infernium. I definitely think that a lot of people will be very frustrated with this game. If you like games that have like tutorials and tell you where to go and more of linear experiences, you're not gonna like this game. The horror it's not, you know, it is a horror game, I guess, but I don't think that the horror is really from like things like jump scares and things like that. It's more of just figuring out why you're in hell, figuring out what this hell is all about, figuring out different ways to go and avoiding these ghoul creatures, because these ghoul creatures can be very ruthless. And when you die, you're dead. That's it. You go back to a checkpoint if you have enough lives left. If you don't, you're in purgatory. Now you have to solve another puzzle. Infernium is a very interesting game. It's definitely got sort of a niche audience, but if you're a fan of horror games, maybe even games like Myst, you know, these open world exploration first person games and solving puzzles and things like that, I think you'll have some enjoyment out of it. I was definitely caught off guard by this game. It wasn't what I was expecting it to be, but I think I like what it ended up being. Just this weird sort of mind-melting experience of hell, a different version of hell that, you know, you and I probably don't think of hell in these beautiful landscapes. We think of it as hellfire and brimstone, once again Cain. But no, it's different, it's unique, and for that I have to give the game credit. It's definitely one of the most unique games I've ever played, and I look forward to playing it more. There's even a new game plus that rearranges everything. So, you know, interesting game. That's all I can really say. It's a very interesting game. If you've been looking at the gameplay footage and it looks like something that you might be interested in, if you don't mind sort of a frustrating difficulty and dying a lot, I think you might enjoy this game. So I want to thank the development team for sending over a review copy of this game. Definitely one of the most unique games I've ever played. And all right, and so that is Infernium on the Nintendo Switch and Steam. Definitely one of the most unique, if not the weirdest game I've ever played in my life. But I think I like it. I think I like it. Let me know what you think about the footage if you've checked out this game in the comments section down below. Thank you for checking out this video. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I do all sorts of reviews for interesting and unique indie games and big games and all sorts of games. I love reviewing games. It's pretty fun to inform people about what these games are about. Thank you for checking out this video. Make sure you check out the description box for all sorts of links. We got Patreon, t-shirts, social media, all sorts of ways to keep up to date with the world of RGT 85, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Later.